upon our city, blessing our city, all our city workers, our council, and all the residents of the city. We ask you to guide our council this evening to walk the right path for the highest good of our city. And may you bless the United States of America. For this we're thankful. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please, Sal.
Vice Mayor William Dittmer.
Here.
Councilwoman Jenny Sorrell.
Here.
Councilman Richard Bloom.
Here.
Councilman Terrence Rowe. Let the record show that Councilman Rowe is absent tonight. City Attorney James Matthew.
Here.
City Manager Vincent Lupo.
Here.
Looking for a motion to approve council minutes.
Motion for the council minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Comments from the general public. Michael Grimes.
Michael Grimes, 5440 Quist, Port Richey. Great job of the police on the water this week. We're gonna need a bigger boat, chief. I can tell
Thank
you that
you.
now.
You couldn't see it too well, could you?
No,
It was there.
No, all right. A lot of residents have questions or made comments regarding dredging. I took the time to contact DEP as well as Army Corps of Engineers to find out exactly what type of permits were issued and the time frame allowed for the completion. In addition, my wife Sherry is gonna yield her time to me. As of today, the city has 2 active permits with 2 separate government agencies. The first permit was issued through DEP in 2010 and was a maintenance dredge permit for all 20 canals in Port Richey. This permit has been extended several times. It's set to expire October 1, 2019, and DEP will allow the city one more extension until October 1, 2020 to get the work completed. Second permit was issued through Army Corps of Engineers in 2018 for only channels 1, 18, and 26A, and is valid until December 2023. The bids for these channels closed March 29, 2019, making this project not as time sensitive. Those bids still have not been presented to council, as far as I know. The city has invested approximately $1.9 million in dredging with no positive results. If the work under the DEP permit is not completed within the time allowed, the money spent will be a loss and the city will need to start the process over with additional expenses. I don't want this project to end up as the walkway under 19 from 2007, where we start something, spend the money, and end up with nothing. Then years later, we are talking and start the process all over again. It costs money each time to do this process. My biggest questions and concerns with the council and management is simple. How do you have a 9-year-old permit still active, no results, yet manage to spend $1.9 million? In addition, in the past 9 years, how many times has the city placed the work for the dredging under the DEP permit out for bid, and how many bids did you receive in the past 9 years? Our canals do not function as they were designed for. The main purpose for the DEP permit is exactly what it states, a maintenance dredge. We have flooding issues throughout the city due to stormwater not properly flowing through our canals. We need to make improvements that will keep our roadways clear, reduce flood risk, and increase safety. A maintenance dredge helps all of us. We have options, resources and money is available without increasing taxes and without adding to vessel registrations. We need the right people with the right experience and knowledge to get it done. The city must partner with the county to complete the dredging. If not, it's going to fail. The more we neglect stormwater, the more risk we place on the community, law enforcement, and emergency services. I met with a member of Sand Pebble who stated all residents, as well as law enforcement and emergency services, have access to our boat ramp in a time of need. However, canal number 6 at Sand Pebble is in need of serious maintenance. If you do not know the canal, you place yourself and others at risk with the possibility of damages due to the large amount of rocks, debris that cover the bottom. In addition, we also restrict resources for law enforcement and emergency services. Everybody's favorite, the Quist Canal, which is canal number 15, is the main canal in the city that allows for the most waterfall in Miller's Bayou. The canal at Quist has an impact in the community that stretches from Old Post all the way to 19 and as far east as Leo Kidd. All residents along Quist Canal and also between Old Post, US 19, from Grand Boulevard to Bay Boulevard are in FEMA flood zone AE. If If you have a mortgage, you need flood insurance in that zone. This also,
Let him yield to his wife.
yep. This area also has 2 retention ponds that empty into the Quist Canal. When the canal at Quist does not have proper water flow, we have flooding not only at the canal, but also at both retention ponds. The water simply has no place to go and floods our properties and our streets. Some of you have small cars, you can't get down Old Post when it floods. The city does have an opportunity to resolve this issue now. A dump site was established for dredge material. It's already existing. A vacant lot along Quist Drive has been available by its owner free of charge for dredge material extraction from the canal. The contractor has a permit right now to put a seawall in, which he's already started. This is a perfect opportunity to take advantage of a project that will not impact traffic along Old Post during debris removal and will help to expedite the project for completion. I understand other community members want their canals done. It can all be done. If we focus on the worst now and prioritize the other canals, we can get this completed in the time allowed. Could council please move forward with a maintenance dredge for canal number 15 along Quist, canal number 6 at Sand Pebble to commence no later than August 1, 2019, and with a completion date no later than October 1 of 2019. If council does agree to move forward, could you also place an action plan on the May 28th agenda for the other canals to be discussed under the current DEP permit with an extension to October 1, 2020? I understand some may want to place this action out for bid versus a direct pay. Please keep in mind we're under a time constraint. If you place the item out for bid, how soon can it be done? If the city has previous bids that have been completed over the past 9 years, can those be reviewed and used? Thank you.
David Mueller.
Dave Mueller, 5439 Blue Point. I'd like to thank you guys for making progress on that dog park. I don't know the entire extent that it's going to be completed, but it's got a construction fence as last I seen, which is temporary, and I believe that to be temporary. Has consideration been given to bifurcating that space for small and large dogs so that they don't intermix? I've had situations with our dogs particularly. I have Chihuahuas, and the situation can escalate very quickly with a small dog and a large dog just taking a bite out of it. My wife has experienced that situation and is deathly afraid of that scenario occurring again. The next piece of that equation is the circle, and I don't know this to be fact, the circle that where the orange construction fence is that a temporary outline of where the product or where the end product is going to be, or you're going to look to combining the exterior boundaries of that park, the 2 angles in that corner, and just create 2 new fences there. I don't know how that is going to lay out, but it would seem to me that you could save money by building 2 fences instead of 4. And if you can incorporate that into that dead corner, that northwest corner of the park, that may be an opportunity to save a little money there. Thank you.
Thank you. Matt Todd.
Matthew Todd, 83 Congress Street. I'd like to thank RDG for bringing the veterans over to the lake. Man goes out of his way to take his time for the veterans, and man did an outstanding job giving back to the veterans. I'd like to also thank the council in moving some of these projects forward. You too, Dr. Bloom, for holding the city manager accountable. What I'd like to also say is, I feel bad for the gentleman sitting up there that their pictures were in the paper. They didn't deserve that. The rhetoric in the city, it's got to stop. Bottom line of it is we're all neighbors. I've reached across the aisle. Some of these people that don't know me, I reached across the aisle. I've gave equipment. I've donated my time and stuff to try to and destroy one another's reputation. I've had ignorant posts put on the internet about me, and I'm contemplating about what I'm going to do with that. But I think it's sad what they did to the city attorney, city manager, and Dr. Bloom. I think it was disgraceful. The other thing is you gotta ask this, I might disagree with you guys in some aspects, but one thing I can truly say, I can remember, go back 4 years ago, where this city was, when yous all were brought in as council members. And I'm proud that I voted for yous, because this city was one step on the verge of bankruptcy that some of these people don't know. And the true rhetoric that's being passed out there, the city manager, he fixed the water. We went from going belly up with the water to having a surplus now, that a lot of these residents don't understand, that the old council sat there and about literally bankrupt and destroyed the city. The same with dredging. They voted against dredging. All I would like to see is the city stop publicizing this stuff on TV, destroying the reputation of this city and all these other residents, and work together and stop the nonsense, because it's ridiculous. We're supposed to have each other's back. Do you know how embarrassing this is when you tell somebody where you live, you pull your driver's license out, and what's being said on the city? These people don't understand. They're running around in golf carts, doing all this crazy stuff, instead of reaching out and helping. Give what happened with them guys, give them their day in court and let it go. Let it go. I'm sick of hearing it. I'm embarrassed of this city, and I feel bad for you council members sitting up there. There's no reason. Mr. City Manager, you and I might have our differences, but I can honestly say, you and Gary Dermer fixed the water. We went from buying water from Newport Richie, and you all know that. That's why you ran and sat in them council seats. But thank you for your time.
Thank
I
you,
appreciate it.
Janet Eckerman?
Janet Eckerman, 5343 Quist Drive, Port Richey, Florida. I'd like to speak on an issue concerning Mr. Bloom specifically, and I'd like to pose the question. Mr. Bloom, at 5:30 a.m. on May 6th, did you request that Tina Marie Louvier send me a text message?
Hey,
This-
Mr. Mayor,
This has to be directed to the chair,
I am.
not the individual.
I am.
and this is totally out of order for her to be doing something like this right now. I'm certainly not gonna get into a dialogue with her.
If you're going to direct things towards any of the council members, this is not the time to do it at this
Okay,
meeting.
I understand. May I finish?
Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay. At that time, on May 6th, I received a letter from a Mrs. Louvier, who I do not know, who advised that she was sending me a message from Mr. Bloom. And it was a threatening message. I would like to let everyone in this room know that this is what happened. I have copies of that message, and I expect to hear no other threats from a city council member. Thank you.
Linda Rodriguez? Lisa Burke?
Lisa Burke, Washington Street. I'm standing here today to talk about the vacant council seat that we have tried to fill. I have a email from Terry Rowe, who stated himself that that seat needed filled. Now, there's been talk here about how that could be illegal or how that's not right, but Mr. Rowe, before he was not here anymore, himself referenced the city charter and that that seat needed filled immediately. Since that's coming back up again before council, I request, as did Mr. Rowe and as do the citizens, that that seat be filled. Thank you for your time.
Thomas Marini?
Thomas Mariani, 5602 Bay Boulevard. My question I want to talk about is Ritchie Drive. Now, I understand when you go west and you come to the three-way stop sign, the other side of it is an plotted, undeveloped road. I want to know if there's any plans on putting that through.
I can speak to that if you'd like.
Please.
Yes, sir.
You know, we have more houses, housing going back there. I see a lot of building material going down Bay Boulevard. So.
Sir, if I can help you.
Okay.
Sir, I proposed that, and I brought it to city council. And city council rejected it at that time. And that's what I can tell you right now. It's there, it can be developed in the future. I believe it will be developed into a road in the future. But there were objections brought by several council people, and I believe it was rejected by council.
I was just thinking maybe we could get some state money or federal money by calling it a hurricane evacuation route.
There are funds available for development of
Thank
that road.
Thank you. Any other anybody else like to comment that's not on the sheet tonight? Move the comments from the city manager.
Yes, Mayor and council, if I might. First thing I'd like to show publicly is some of the things that Mr. Todd alluded to. This is our water production. This is our water purchase. This is our water backwash and our water being recirculated, which is money back into the system. You can see what the charts look like in 15, 16, 17, and 18, and how we're improving. And this is the monthly report up through the month of April. And to bolster that, there's an additional chart that we just have now. The green was what we were buying, and this is what we're buying in water now, negligible. The bare minimum necessary. And that's further augmented by our permit that we've received, and this is a copy of the permit, to convert a monitoring well into a full production well, which allows this community the opportunity to both rest wells and increase its water production. And all of these factors will be coming to council very shortly during the budget process, where we will continue to discuss water rates and the possibility of not another increase and very possibly a decrease, depending upon where we go with water rates. We have a very vigorous production and distribution system. I note that there are very few complaints about the quality of the water, because we're improving our filtration plants. And if you take a look back there, what used to be a green slime pond no longer exists, because we have reinstituted a dehydration system that allows us to recuperate water that goes back through our filter system and saves us money. So our water operation production system is moving forward quite well, and we're all quite pleased with it. There were several mentions about the dog park. The dog park is well underway, and we hope to have it completed well before its estimated time that we gave to council in July, depending, of course, upon water. There are some minor adjustments that we'll make as we go along the line, but most likely it will be completed actually before the deadline that we had spoken about. Now, with respect to Orange Grove, the long-awaited Orange Grove construction project, I just got off the phone with the director of that project. It is scheduled for July 26th or sooner. So we expect to see Orange Grove fully operational by July 26th, and he states possibly sooner. That's something we've been working for a long time, and that neighborhood, Candlelight certainly deserves it. And that basically, Mayor, is my report.
Okay. Thank you, Vince. All right, let's move on from comments from council.
I'm fine, thank you.
Mr. Bloom, please.
Just first, let me say in rebuttal to Ms. Ackerman's comments, her diatribe, I have no idea what she's talking about. Moving on to more substantive information, I received from Mr. Brown some inquiries that I think they should be addressed, and I think, Jim, you're probably in the best position to address them. He was inquiring about how does a council member get the title vice mayor? How long, excuse me, how long will he or she serve as how long will he or she serve as vice mayor? How can he or she be replaced as vice mayor? And shouldn't the swearing-in ceremony of any city official take place during a meeting that is open to the public? Do you care to comment on those?
Not sure
How does a council member just?
off the top of my head, each year at the organizational meeting after an election, we have an election every year, the vice mayor is chosen by the new council.
Okay.
That's every year.
Yes. And how long will the vice mayor serve?
So the next organizational meeting, a year later.
A year later. And how can he or she be replaced as vice mayor?
I'd have to check the charter to see what they want, whether you'd need a cause or not. I
Okay.
would think you'd need cause under the forfeiture
Like,
section.
like any other council member?
Yeah, I would think so.
Okay.
But that would be different. You'd just be taking them down as the vice mayor, so I don't know off the top of my head.
Shouldn't the swearing-in ceremony of any city official take place during a public meeting?
Doesn't have to be. We can swear them in at any time. You can swear them in that night of the election. The vice mayor doesn't get sworn in, but I think I understood one question.
Okay. This is another one for you, Jim, because I think from a legal standpoint, I received some photographs of the ramp that goes out on the floating kayak ramp, and there are some elevated boards there that look like they're defective, and
You're talking about just so I understand, you're describing the ramp over at the lagoon?
over to the kayak ramp.
Oh, the one at the park on the
Yeah, yeah.
south side of the park?
Yeah,
I've been there.
So I mean, if they're defective, they probably should be addressed.
There will
because
be, sir.
Yeah, I think it could be an issue, a liability issue.
We'll take care of that first thing tomorrow morning, sir.
Okay. And one other thing, Jim, I know we had talked about the commercial and industrial maintenance standards. You did, I think, didn't we have a first reading on that? Where are you with those? Do you recall?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think we
We
passed them.
passed it.
I believe we passed them. I
It's
could check, but
operative.
I'm pretty sure we passed them.
They're passed?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay.
We had a second reading. You want me to check, but I'm pretty sure.
Okay, yeah, just to make sure
Yeah, I
they're
think that's-
passed. And I was looking at the residential maintenance compliance reports, and we have, the last I've seen were February. Do we have March and April's?
Yes, in fact, I can give you, you're talking about the
Residential.
grant program, the residential grant?
Not
Oh,
the
okay,
grant.
the inspections?
Yeah,
Be
Yes.
more than happy to give you one, sir.
okay. I haven't seen those for a couple of months, so I thought, weren't you going to include those with our packets in the meetings?
I will do so, sir.
Okay. And something interesting took place. So a while back, I recommended that the police get involved in the code compliance.
Yes, sir.
And I remember there was a considerable amount of pushback from you and Jim and a few of the council members. You had it in the past, there was a problem with doing it, having the police do it. I thought it was a good idea because it was they're out there 24/7, 7 days a week, all the time, so they can obviously observe everything they need to observe. But for some reason, that motion I made failed. Now, can you?
No, sir.
I thought that was done.
No, sir, it's done.
No, it is done now, but when I had recommended it, you said it was maybe too draconian. I don't recall all the issues. Why, it's okay now to have the police do it now?
At the time, Mr. Muse wanted to consolidate that function within the building department. There were some preclusions and some concerns voiced by the general public when we had gone through the modification to the minimum housing standards about police action. So at that point in time, it just did not seem, given that general set of circumstances at the time, to move forward. But we now have taken a hard look at the position. The position now rests with the police department. It allows a closer communication with the police department, and we believe it's functioning extremely well. We did that approximately a month and a half ago. Yeah, but
No, I know it was recent. It was just that when I had mentioned that we should consider that, it didn't move forward.
I think at that time, as I stated, that it was part of the over-concern voiced by some of the public about intrusions into their personal space, their personal property, and the police being involved in that gave an awkward feeling. So at that time, we sat and tried and worked it out, but once we did make the minimum housing laws and enacted them, the general public realized that this is not an invasion of their space. So we properly relocated it. Now that we have Mr. Foss on board, we've relocated that function to the police department, and it's working admirably well.
Okay, good. And one thing I need to find out here is if somebody calls in a code violation complaint, is the person who called in the complaint, are they identified to the person who is allegedly in violation of that complaint?
Not to my, no.
Is it anonymous?
We'll take anonymous complaints, yeah, and
Certainly.
we go out and investigate them.
Well, but if somebody identifies themselves, do you tell the person who is allegedly in violation of the
No.
complaint?
No.
Who that person was?
No.
Okay. I want to address the issues that I brought up with you, Mr. Lupo, last meeting.
Certainly.
And the movies in the park were one, and if I may, it was my understanding, the intent of this council wanted to develop a program in the park the residents could enjoy, and that movies would be a great beginning. Movies, not movie, movies. Okay, we had one schedule that got rained out. It's kind of ridiculous just to have schedule one movie in the park and not keep moving forward. I mean, Ms. Martinez and myself went down to Newport Richey to the Parks Department down there, and we sat with them. And they informed us that years ago, that's how they got started at their Sims Park, with movies. And it wasn't very costly, and it was a great idea, and it worked well for them. And so we brought it back, but not with the intent just to have one movie, okay? The intent was to develop things in the park for the residents that they could enjoy, other than, in addition to, I should say, the Christmas and the July 4th, okay? Because if you look at it, if you look at this closely, other than the basic city services here that are supplied to the residents, and that Christmas festival and the July 4th, what pleasurable events does the city provide to its residents for their tax dollars and an $11 million budget? I think it's prudent to try to stimulate that kind of entertainment, or even other forms of entertainment in the park. Now I want to move on.
Can I respond? May I respond?
Go ahead.
Again, I believe that the interpretation was slightly different with respect to movies versus a movie for the Christmas event. At that point in time, there was discussions about turning the bowl area into an amphitheater for seating, and there were all different kinds of venues being prospered at the time. If it is council's desire to continue on a quasi-regular basis, and you wish to do that, budget time is coming up, and we most certainly will bring the issue forward to you all, and if council agrees that this is what they would like, we'll set up a budget and we'll move forward. The costs are approximately close to $2,000 per event, not including staff time, so.
You know, you got $4 million in the utility fund, so I think you can find a couple $1,000s for movies. Let's talk about the flood and drainage,
Okay.
Because I talked about that with you before.
Yes, sir. One
And-
thing, please, I have to correct you as far as utility funds. Utility funds are specific to utility-specific functions. So there is other money, I understand what you're saying.
I was just making that point.
Okay, sir. Yes, sir.
And for flooding and drainage purposes.
Yes, sir.
okay, We talked, I asked you to look at the streets that flood, the homes that flood.
Correct.
The culverts, the swales.
Correct.
That are non-functioning. I got some photographs here that were sent to me by a resident. You can take a look at them. It's all over the city that they have not been maintained for quite some time. And they're contributing to the flooding. You responded back to me, Mr. Lupo, that it would cost an engineering fee of $180,000.
Correct.
Okay, I don't know where you got that fee, but that's okay. But I think what needs to be done here, because this is a huge problem in our city, the flooding, and if it's too much for our employees to handle, and it certainly may be, then we need to outsource it, and we need to allot the proper monies to fix the problem. But the first step is if you came up with a $180,000 figure, then that's enough to send this out for a proposal for bids. And I think that should actually be done sooner than later.
Sir, as you are well aware, we live in a tidal community. The water comes in, the water attempts to get out, and when the tide is up, it can't get out. There's a specious argument with respect to Quist that the water must go out of Quist. What was done at Quist Canal, if you'll call it that, Channel 15, was there's a culvert, essentially, a large drainage pipe underneath Old Post that had some obstruction on one end and a smaller amount on the other end. That was removed, and to ensure that that pipe was clear. In addition to that, the drainage lines all the way from 19 down miles into that small area pond and then going out under Quist was all absolutely cleaned. So there was a free flow. But no matter how free that flow may be, if the tide is up at Quist, the water is not going to exit. With respect to other areas, the same exact conditions exist. I'll come to you during this budget process if council chooses to go forward with an overall study somewhere around, we'll go out to bids, go out for about approximately $180,000, and we certainly can move forward in that direction. Ascertaining where these specific excuse me, problems may be, we attempt to address them as best we possibly can. And I'll take those photos that were submitted to you, and I'll get with our Public Works, and we'll see what we can do to resolve that issue.
The two canals that Mr. Grimes spoke about, these permits.
15 and 6, sir.
Yeah, these permits are ready to expire in October. The Quist and the
6, Channel 6 at San Pebble, is that what
6
you're referring to?
and 15. there was a figure of $154,000 to do Quist. I don't know what the one was for Sand Pebble, but apparently the emergency services would be using that canal for their vessels. But more importantly is there's a huge amount of money that has been spent since the inception of dredging. I discussed that at length at another council meeting. But I think it's prudent that those two canals be attended to. One, the Quist, because it will, Commissioner Mariano was here and he was discussing that with you.
Correct.
Do you recall that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And have you moved in the direction that he suggested with the county?
No, what we have done is we've spoken with the source that he's talking about, which is the Restore Act, and we're still working with them to resolve the channels 1, 18, and 26A. The story that Mr. Mariano is working with is a potential of some $800,000 from wherever, whoever, whenever, and to awarding it to some individual or company without having engineering specs, and then the ludicrous statement about taking the fill from that site and moving it on to somebody's lot temporarily, the violation of everything going.
Well, we understand that.
Okay, but with respect to what you're saying, sir, this community, again, I was not here when all that occurred. This community has spent an unimaginable amount of funds to obtain the permits for this dredging, and unfortunately, in my opinion, they put the cart so far before the horse, it's unimaginable.
I identified that. No, I want to interrupt you so we can move on.
Sure.
We're not here all night. But are you saying that these two canals can get dredged before the expiration of the permits or cannot?
Sir, I don't know where you'll get the money to dredge them if council chooses to go in that direction. Someone has to pick out what canals they can go down after 1, 18, and 26, which is the Restore Act agreement with the county and city and the federal government. With respect to Channel 6, which is Sand Pebble, former Mayor Massett was attempting, proposed to move the police facility for its boat from Nix Park potentially to that channel. And at the same time, I believe Sand Pebble would be gracious enough to allow other operating entities to use that canal. So that would have fostered the ability for the dredging of that canal. But I believe in speaking to the police department and some of the other entities, relocating our facility to the Sand Pebble facility was a significant gap in time in order to use it for response. But that's a different argument for a different time. At this point in time, council can choose any canal that they so wish for whatever reason that they wish within those currently permitted, as long as they can have the money and they can move forward with the proper engineering that's required to do dredging. That's a decision that council must make at some future time, both a decision for specifically and economically.
The 1/18/26A, those permits don't expire till 2023.
Correct, sir.
We got two of them that are expiring in October 2019.
Yes, sir, but the contract that we have with the federal government through the Restore Act is specifically for those three canals and can only be used on those canals.
And I get that, and that's separate. What, are you saying tonight that there is no money to dredge the Quist Canal, number 15 and number 6?
to my knowledge, you do not have the amount of funds that's required. And again, the $155,000 number may be a specious number. We have no idea. There are no blueprints. There is no plan for the testing of that soil. There is no real plan for the relocation of that soil or the disposal of that soil. So there has to be a certain basis before you can move forward in that direction.
Well, let me ask you this.
Sir?
These permits have been in existence for quite some time, correct?
Yes, sir.
And now they're getting ready to expire, and now, you're saying now all these things that you need have not been done to get it dredged. Why is that?
Sir, these permits have been extended and extended and extended for various political or economic reasons. Nothing moved forward.
I'm asking why.
It was not the will of the then sitting councils to articulate the funding to go beyond the Restore Act funding. Again, when the CRA was set up and its funding began, the original idea was to husband those funds and compile enough money at a future date to go and do the dredging. But unfortunately, previous administrations utilized those funds in a different manner. And they artificially suppressed the millage rates by utilizing CRA funds in a different manner than was originally intended. To address that point, since I have been here, I have continually reduced reliance upon CRA funds and moved the burden back to where it belonged, to the ad valorem side, so that we could begin to see a reaccumulation of funds back in the CRA.
I appreciate your explanation. So prior council administration, for those, whatever reasons they chose, that these canals were not done.
Correct.
Okay. Do you have any idea if there is any mechanism or any way those two canals with those two permits expiring, can they be dredged in a timely fashion before the permits expire?
I do not believe, my own personal opinion,
That's all I want.
I do not believe that can be accomplished, sir.
I requested these dates for these completions.
Yes, sir.
This is the last thing I have for you.
Sure.
The dog park.
Yes, sir, be completed before,
The kiddie playground, okay, and the flood and drainage analysis, which we spoke about. This is what I got back, the dog park. Begin construction May 3rd. Estimate completion July 2019.
correct,
May, June, 3 months
correct.
to build that dog park.
Correct, except that, as I just stated earlier, we expect that dog park to be completed by the end of the month. I have to give you, sir, we are using our own people to do this work. These people, our employees, are not necessarily going out and doing some of the work that you're pointing to, because they are now doing this other job. So what we're doing is part here and part there. My preference would have been to put the entire project out to bid, have someone else do it in and out under a specific contract, and allow my people to do what they're specifically prescribed to do.
That would have seemed reasonable. Why didn't you do that?
Very simply, that was not the direction that was given to me during our budget process. It was to utilize as little funds as possible, to depend as much as possible on grants for the material, and the labor was to come from our employees in order to get the projects completed because there was never enough funding. These are all issues that can be easily resolved during the budget process.
That's good. Now, the kiddie playground, the handicap playground?
Yes, sir.
Begin construction August 1st. Hang on. Estimated completion time, November 2019. Now, let me ask you something.
Sure.
That's over 3 months.
Yes, sir.
How long did it take, once the equipment was set on the ground, how long did it take for Farrell Roofing and the city people, whoever got involved, to put that kiddie park up? A half a day?
No, far from that, sir. First, as Mr. Lee and several other individuals will attest, first, they had to go out there, get the physical site, which was approved by previous councils, approved that location. Dig the site, prepare the site. Then we had ordered the equipment finally arrived. We went out to do construction. Some of the construction was by Farrell's organization, and some of the construction was by city employees. We poured special concrete footings for some. You'll remember the mayor and the then vice mayor went out there and dug holes to check how deep the concrete was. At any rate, council, in its wisdom, said after statements from the general public that that was not the location that they preferred. Council wanted a different location. We alerted council at the time that that location previously approved by former administrations and councils was tied into a FERDAP grant. And that if we relocated that, we had a potential of losing that grant. We acceded to council's demands. We relocated the physical location of where that park is going to be in accordance with council's wishes, submitted to the organization for funding, who simply rejected it out of hand. So we will be putting that in lock, stock, and barrel with our own employees because we don't have the financial capability, unless council authorizes me and shows me where that money's coming from, to go out and get it put back up. And in the interim, sir, those employees have to do the things that we're talking about: cutting the palm trees, doing the dredging work, repairing potholes, as we do. And that is the issue with respect to why that date is extended. June 1st begins hurricane season. I have my employees going in and dredging every one of those potential sites to ensure that we don't have that problem. Again, it's a matter of dollars and cents, which I'll bring to you at this budget time. I certainly would love to take direction to go out, hire a company to come in and do it. It would be done within a contractual basis.
I don't care. Whatever explanation you want to give me, August, September, October, November, it doesn't take 4 months to put a handicap playground up. Now,
Sir, please, it does take that time if the people can't do the job 8 hours a day. If I have to take those people and move them to do another job that's more important, to make sure that drainage line you're talking about is in fact clean and ready for the upcoming storm season, to use the vac truck and to blow out.
you talking about these lines here?
All of them throughout the city, not just those. We do citywide.
That took months and months and months to get like that.
Sir, I don't know where that is, and I can tell you that our people are out on a regular basis cleaning those lines. I don't know what you're showing. I don't know when that picture was taken. I don't know if that picture was taken at high tide when the water's
You want me to authenticate them, is that what you want me to do?
No, sir. I believe you, and I believe the pictures. I just don't.
I'm being facetious.
Okay.
What you're saying is, the city doesn't have the money.
Yes, sir.
It doesn't have the money.
Yes, sir.
We have a $4 million surplus, roughly, right, in the utility fund. What can that be used for?
Utilities,
Isn't the
related
fund-
functions.
is that related to utilities? the
No,
dredging
sir.
and swales or anything like that? So you can't use that money?
Correct, sir.
Okay. So your recommendation is to wait for the budget and budget these items out?
And farm them out. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Mr. Bloom?
That's all I have, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
We'll move on to the agenda. First, number 2 on the agenda is the approval for the 4 mini freestanding locations. And I think Claudia Smith wanted to speak to that.
Claudia Smith, 7335 Candlelight Court. You should have a map of each of the locations. I tried to circle where we would like them in the park, where you can kind of see where it is. If you have any questions, please ask me. I'll do the best I can to answer the questions. But we think we've put them in appropriate places. At Waterfront Park, we're looking at next to the kiosk. At Oldsmar Park, we're looking next to the gazebo. At Winslow Park, thank you. There's an area that is close to where the neighborhood is. It has trees and a couple of park benches that we thought it would be nice. Plus, the neighbors can kind of keep an eye on it. And then last but not least, the one next to the pier, next to Whiskey River. There's a place between where Whiskey River is and where the pier is that there's nothing located there that we thought would be a good spot. We tried to look at it security-wise too, and we think we've got them in locations, hopefully, where no one would mess with them. So we would like your vote where we can start installing those. The one here has been very, very successful.
Thank you, Claudia.
Thank you.
All right, we're looking for a motion to approve the locations of the freestanding libraries.
Motion approved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Moving on to the consent agenda, we're looking for a motion to pass the consent agenda.
Motion to pass the consent agenda.
Is this a consent agenda? Okay, yeah, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right.
I'm sorry.
Now we're moving to the consideration of the Quist Canal, which I believe we've kind of hashed out unless there's more questions to that.
No, I agree. I think we did hash that out. It's unfortunate. It doesn't sound like the funds are available.
I agree.
And unfortunately, I think the permits are going to expire.
Yes, sir.
It's a shame, but you answered it, that prior administrations and councils
We were
did not
dealt a hand,
pursue that.
right.
Yeah.
Yep.
You play the cards you're dealt with.
Yes, sir. Okay. Do we need a motion to deny that? That's good, right? Okay. All right, then we're going to move to the first reading of the ordinance.
I'll take that. This first reading of
Hold on, Jim.
No, let it go. Don't worry about
Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead, we ready? This is first reading of ordinance 19-668 by title only, an amendment to the City of Port Richey, Florida Land Development Code, Chapter 22-55E, amending 22-55E2, Severability Inclusion Code and effective date. This is the WOD issue. Looking for a motion.
Motion to approve the first reading of the, hang on, first reading of the ordinance 19-668.
Second with a comment?
Please.
Okay, after discussing with Dallas Voss, our building official, I agree with this, with the ordinance. He has assured me that if we put fuel in that area, that it will be contained and that it will not be an issue.
All right, all in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Item 6, the consideration of the man lift purchase for Public Works Department. I actually had a question on that.
Certainly.
Okay. The amount of usage, I know a lot of places do rent that equipment. How often would we utilize that equipment to make the purchase?
If I might, Mayor, there are several different issues that go beyond the mere rental cost. One of the primary reasons is one of safety. That piece of equipment, which has been budgeted and would be coming out of the Penny for Pasco funds, is specifically designed to raise an employee safely to a level where that employee can deal with the removal of palm fronds, which is a nightmare for our employees. They have to get up on a ladder under those palm trees. They have to jam that ladder up under that palm tree. And with all due respect, mice fall out of those palm trees and hit the employees. Roaches, carpenter ants, and some of the palms themselves, making it extremely dangerous for any employee to get up to any reasonable height to trim a palm tree that everyone agrees needs to be trimmed. So it's a safety issue with respect to that. In addition, when we have some major roof repairs coming up to some of the facilities at the water department and some of the other facilities that will need aerial lifts for extended periods of time while we do those repairs. In addition, when we replace many of the large light bulbs, we have to hire that lift, as you pointed to earlier, and in excess of $400 plus just for the unit, plus the individual who's going to operate it. This unit comes off of the sheriff's purchase list, so it is the most economical price that we can possibly attain. It also comes with training and with the general warranties. But the use is extremely important with respect to safety issues. And so far, we have been, I've stopped individuals from putting a ladder on a truck to do some of this work because it's so unsafe. So it's really a safety issue. And a better utilization of our time.
Okay, my question was more regarding the amount of time that we're going to be using this. Would it be more cost-effective to rent it for the times that we do, or is this a cost savings to the city overall?
I believe it to be a cost savings overall because of the other issues that are involved beyond the actual economics is the utilization of time by our employees, jury rigging something in order to get up to a certain height. So it's a combination of both economics and utilization.
Okay, thank you. We're looking for a motion.
Can I
Sure.
ask a question? So you've rented these before for
Yes, sir.
you're familiar with those?
Yes, sir.
And roughly, do you have any idea how many times you had to rent one of these things?
I
in a
don't
year?
know off the top of my head, but quite a few, especially during the holidays, especially during
than
storm
10?
efforts.
More than 10, less?
Oh,
than
easily
10?
more than 10 or 12. Easily, possibly 20 or 30.
20 or 30?
Yes, sir. In addition to that, as I stated earlier, the amount of.
I think that's what the mayor was trying to
Yeah.
get at. What was the penny, I forgot about Penny for Pasco. You can use that money for a man lift, right?
Yeah, there are certain guidelines with respect to how you can use
Yeah,
Penny
it's
for
coming from
Pasco.
Penny for Pasco.
Penny for
Yeah.
Pasco?
Yeah.
And can you use Penny for Pasco for dredging?
No, sir.
Okay.
Looking for a motion to pass the man lift purchase.
Motion to approve the cost of this man lift from Penny Pasco funding.
Before the motion's voted on.
Mayor, do you want to take any public,
David?
comments on this before we,
It's been seconded.
before we close?
No.
Once it comes onto the floor is normally when you do
Okay.
it. So is there a second? You're seconding it, right?
She made the motion?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Generally, you get public input once it's on the floor.
I'll second.
Okay.
Dave Mueller, 5439 Blue Point. I seem to be seeing this process repeat and repeat, where something comes in, it's thrown out there, it's bantered around, not a lot of discussion, or a lot of discussion about it, but no concrete facts. Now, this guy over here mentioned, do we have a record of what we've been paying for rent and compare that against a cost-benefit analysis about what this capital acquisition is going to require?
And exactly where is their cost ratio analysis going to be when I have an employee fall off a ladder cutting your palm tree?
You don't cut my palm trees.
A
right?
palm tree, sir.
You don't cut my palm
I'm giving
trees.
an example.
Right.
There are times when there are cost-benefit ratios, and there are times when there are safety considerations. That's why my policemen wear bulletproof vests. They don't have to, but we insist upon it.
Well, they're my policemen too, and I appreciate that.
They certainly are. I'm glad you appreciate them. We all do.
But all I'm suggesting is, let's go at this from a comparison approach. What is it gonna cost? What are the benefits? And argue your case. I think it'd be a much better point to be made if you can show the merits of this, and you certainly have the ability to articulate those issues. And I appreciate the way you've laid those out.
Mr. Mayor, there's almost 100 pages behind the request.
But sometimes you get into this analysis paralysis and you don't get the thing solved.
I appreciate that,
Okay.
sir.
May I comment, Mr. Mayor?
Thank you.
Just to comment to your thought. They use it frequently, and it would probably be more cost-effective to rent it with one caveat. And that's why he sold me on this, and safety. And safety, you can't put a price on safety, and that's why I went ahead and seconded this motion and did not require him to come back here with copies of his invoices on how many times they rented that machine.
Gotcha,
Safety
gotcha.
is utmost, and there's
All
no
I'm
price on it.
suggesting is, you can argue your position if you lay out the facts, and some of the facts are, I spent X on rent, it's gonna cost me Y, and these are the intangible benefits, like you alluded to, safety being one of them, to make that an tilt in your favor.
Yes, sir.
And all I'm suggesting is, when you have an expenditure like that coming down the pipe, it might behoove you to lay it out in a way that people can grasp it real quick and move forward with the item.
Again, this item was also discussed during our budget process. It was a budgeted item. All right, sir.
You have another comment?
Mr. Brown?
Thomas Brown, 7436 Candlelight Court. I'm in favor of this lift because of the safety for the employees, but I'd like to know, does it have to be towed to the site? How high does it go, and what does it cost? Thank you.
It's all in here. And it can be towed, and 40-something feet? 40 feet high, and it can be towed, by us.
32,000.
Can it operate out off of the truck, or does it have to be back into where it needs to go? Fully functional without a truck.
Hold on. Not from the gallery, please.
32,000.
Yeah, it's 32 is the cost. Mike?
Ready?
Got another person right there.
Here we go.
Mike Grimes, 5440 Quest. Being that we're talking about money, lift, I understand. Canals 14, 15, and 16 along Quist are actually owned by Pasco. Can that permit be transferred to Pasco and let them pick up the responsibility?
Mike, we're trying to get through the agenda there.
Okay.
We're gonna get to that part.
Just something to think about.
Thank you.
All right.
Do we have a second on that?
Yeah, I
Yeah, you did.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Move forward to the selection of the independent financial auditing services. We're looking for a motion to award the contract to EFPR Group.
Motion to approve contract award to EFPR Group in the amount of $60,000 over a period of 3 years for auditing services.
Well, you know I have a question.
Certainly.
It's a new group, right? Is this new? We've used somebody else in the past, correct?
Yes, of course,
I
yeah.
don't do it this way. Yes, well, I think for the last 3 years, Jocelyn,
Use
we.
somebody
Okay,
else.
so could you tell us why you're deciding to change? And is this costing more than the older group or the previous group?
I can answer those questions for you,
Okay,
sir.
I'm sorry,
Yes. Every 3 years, we're required to select new auditing firm. It can be, you have to go out and do the process all over again. So it can be the same auditing firm that you've chosen before. We have this particular auditing firm for the last 6 years. So we've chosen them twice before. So we're following the normal process that we do to acquire auditing services. When we advertised for this particular bid this year, we got 2 bids back. One was actually lower than what we're paying now. So the EFPR group that's recommended by staff is $60,000 over a period of 3 years. Our previous auditor was $66,480 over a period of 3 years. So there is a slight cost savings by going with this group that's recommended in the agenda.
So the Palin Jones was more expensive?
Yes.
Okay.
That's all. That's all I know. Bill, would you like to speak to this?
I would, but you've got a motion, you have a second.
Second.
We have a second.
Now you can speak.
Bill Colombo, 7810 Chaska Street. As Jocelyn said, it is in our code that you have to go out for the independent auditor every 3 years, and it doesn't mean it has to be somebody different every time, but it is good to mix them up. It's not good to stay with one auditor for any great length of time. I would there's something in the lead into this section on the agenda that says the agreement with our current auditing firm, Powell & Jones, concluded with the 2019 submission of the 2017-18 fiscal audit year report. I would be curious as to when that's going up. I should hope that would be soon.
Yes, it is, sir.
Cool, okay. Good news. You've got 2 bids here. One is from Maudlin and Jenkins in the amount of $108,000, and EFPR Group in the amount of $60,000. Now, the differential there is basically based on the fact that the 2 different groups, the lower bid is proposing an estimated number of hours of 180, whereas the second larger bid is for 300 hours. So you got another 120 hours built in by the Maudlin Group that the EFPR Group does not have. I point that out. And I also point out the fact that though both of the organizations have offices in Florida, despite the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pages of references from the EFPR Group, they're basically all in New York. The references from Maudlin and Jenkins are Florida company places, including Bradenton, Haines City, Liberty City, Longboat Key, Marco Island, Naples, Palmetto, Pensacola, Plant City, the South Florida Regional Transit Authority, Tampa Bay Water, Union City, and Valdosta, Georgia. I find their work with well-known Florida entities particularly attractive. I know there is a tendency to take the low bid. I think that from what I've been hearing from an awful lot of people, they really would like a deep dive into our audit, and I really wish you would reconsider going with or re-looking at this particular bid that you've got here and rethinking what we want best. I want the deepest, best audit we can get, and that is not necessarily the low bidder, and nothing against the EFPR Group. I am kind of surprised that we don't have representatives from either one of them here tonight, but that's my statement. Thank you very much.
Motion to approve?
I think I already did
Did we?
that.
You have that.
Sorry.
It's on the floor.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. have now nomination appointments to the cities to vacant council members. Oh, wait, did we skip one?
No, the Citizen
Citizen Advisory Group. No, mine's out of order.
For council consideration, the appointment of new members Kathleen Overbeck, Angel Natalie, and Erica Bloomquist to the Citizens Advisory Committee.
Motion approved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Mr. Mayor, if I might, before we move further, there's one other issue. We received a request from the Citizens Advisory Committee to send out a thank you note to various individuals and organizations that assisted in a wonderful event that they conducted, which was an appreciation luncheon for our employees. The request is very simple. It is to be able to utilize the city seal on that very nice thank you note. I do not have the authority to grant that. That is a council condition. And they would certainly send out this beautiful letter of thank you without the seal, but it's up to council if they would wish to grant this seal.
Do we need a motion to approve that?
Motion to approve the use of the
Just gotta
seal.
say something. Yeah, any use of the seal requires council's approval. That's our code. I always would recommend that you just don't, have you seen exactly what's going to be sent?
Yes, sir.
Okay, then, there you go. He's fine with it. That's something for council.
Sure, just a simple
You
thank you
might want to
note.
look at, right?
Mike.
And be very clear, it's a one-time use.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'm sorry, Ms.
Claudia
Smith.
Smith?
Smith, 7335 Candlelight Court. We only have 2 open positions, and you have 3 people that have expressed interest, so we only need 2 more. So to me,
Yeah,
you would
I-
take the first 2 that
Well,
submit.
you're the liaison, right?
Right.
And so you need 9, right? This would make it 10?
That would make them 10.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they need the odd number.
Okay. Yeah, 9's the number.
Okay, well then we probably should just take the first 2 in the list, because I assume they were put on here
It's an
randomly.
alternate, yeah.
Okay, so I would approve Caitlin Overbeck and Angel Nally. And can we,
Have one here.
okay. To the Citizens Advisory Committee.
I'll reset.
Every second. All in favor? Aye. Now we'll move to the nomination appointment of the city resident to the vacant council member seat. We have a nomination.
To be sure, if I might, Mayor?
Yes, please.
Any action taken by this council at this time, there are only 2 remaining meetings that if you've made a selection, that individual would sit through. There will be a meeting, an election on June 18th to fill that position. There are 2 subsequent meetings after this one. So there are only two subsequent meetings, just for your information.
No nominees at this time?
No. That said, motion to adjourn if there's not going to be any nominees.
Ms. Sorrell, any nominee?
No,
Okay, motion dies. Looking for a motion to adjourn?
wait a second, I have old
Oh,
business.
sorry.
Okay. I have a concern that was brought up several months ago about the garbage trucks in the middle of the night. Have we resolved that issue?
Chief?
I called one of the garbage companies that we thought was going through the area, and they're reluctant to move the route any later. If they move the route, come a little bit later to appease one person, they'll probably get many calls from aggravated people that their garbage is sitting out there later than it. So I did make contact with them, but they're not going to change the route.
Okay, and the other thing was, is it was also brought up at a meeting previous to this meeting about the number of animals permitted in a residential home. Mr. Foss, did you figure that out?
There is nothing in the ordinance, city ordinance restricting the number of animals that I can find.
Is there something in the Pasco County that restricts it?
Not that I noticed. I will go back and look at this again.
I think Newport Richie has something, you can check.
Yeah, but we go from.
Pasco too.
But I'll look at it again.
I'll help you with that, Dallas. Is that all right?
That'd be fine. Okay.
And you
That's-
want, not to interrupt you, Councilwoman, you want to know if there, you're trying to limit the amount of animals, whether
I'm not
dogs,
trying
cats?
to limit,
No,
I want
just
to know
meant-
if there is one,
No, but you want to know animals, dogs, cats, or any animals, or
any animals.
in a house?
I'm going for
Okay,
any
all right,
animals,
just checking for the question. Okay, thanks.
excluding the human one.
We'll be real careful.
Okay. That was just brought up in a previous meeting, and I'd like to have some kind of answer to that for that individual that was looking into that.
I'll work with Dallas, we'll take a look at it. I can
Okay.
look it up pretty easily.
And that's all the old business that I had. The rest of the stuff on my list has already been brought up.
Okay, then,
Motion to adjourn.
Ms. Rao,
Motion to adjourn.
second,
Second.
all in favor? Aye. Aye.